Welcome, everybody. Most of you know me. I'm Paulette Margulies. I'm a chair of programming and social and whatever. This is the last of our speaker series this year. It is the Poznansky Wellness Talk, and as you know, Shelley Goodman will be offering it. We are so happy that we have a congregation that is filled with people who had had a different life before they moved down here. As Shelley continues her life. And if any of you here or out there in Zoom land would like to offer your expertise in whatever field you endeavor that you are studying or that you're interested in, or that was your professional life, please see me and we'll try to make it happen for next year. This is the last lecture, as I said, and it looks like we have a nice turnout, which is good, both out there in Zoom and here in person. I really hope that by next year we'll be able to be out of our bubble and we'll be able to have most people here in person. We know how necessary that is. Tonight's talk is by Shelley Goodman. A little bit of background. I mean, she's sitting over there. Most of you know her. She's from Ontario, Canada. She has a Master's of Education from the University of Toronto and the Ontario Institute for Studies in Education. She's been president of the Matrimonial Mediation Services from 1989 until the present. In fact, when I was emailing her before, she said, you know, can't answer, I'm working. So she certainly keeps up to date with her field. Today, and I'm just going to read right from last week's Shabbat Bulletin. Do you make plans? Do you expect them to be actualized? Living with COVID-19 taught us how fragile plans really were. Experience has validated that we are living in the unpredictable. And Shelley will tell you about her journey and give us, hopefully, some skills on how to continue predicting the unpredictable.
Thank you, Paulette. Good evening, everyone. How wonderful it is to be the last speaker. This is the last thing you're going to remember, are my wonderful words. I don't think I need that. I've got a mic on. Can you not hear me? I can talk louder. I know most people don't ever tell me I talk too softly. It is my honor to be your wellness speaker this evening and to discuss some thoughts on thriving.
Joyce, give me a thumbs up if you can hear us. No, okay.
Uh-oh, we'll have to wait a minute.
You cannot hear her. Okay, give me 1 second. Too far down.
Hello out there. Can you hear me now?
Can you hear her? Wait. Joyce, tell me what you hear.
It's much better.
Okay, so we're gonna use the.
Not with you, just when Shelley's talking into the mic.
That's all it's important.
Just my words are the ones that you have to listen to. What you missed was how wonderful it is for me to be the last speaker, because those are the last words you're going to hear. And those are the ones that hopefully you'll remember. It is my honor to be your wellness speaker this evening and to discuss some thoughts on thriving in the unpredictable. I do not purport to be a specialist in the field of the unknown, just a human like you living in it. Everything I'm going to share with you tonight are thoughts and opinions and beliefs that I have developed over many years. The most important message that I'm sending, however, is that they are my opinions, my strategies that work for me, but they may not be the only right opinions or strategies, nor will they necessarily work for you. This event is for you. So if something I say moves you to agree, or more importantly, disagree, feel free to ask a question by raising your hand. Interruptions are permitted and generally expected to appear in the unpredictable. What we are supposed to talk about and share tonight will be what you want to discuss. So let me begin with a question. How many of you have plans to go somewhere or do something special in the next 3 months? Raise your hand. Oh, good. Lots of people have plans. Wonderful. Mel, where are you going? Oh, yes, you're traveling with me to Raleigh, North Carolina. Great. Who else? Rhonda, you said you have a plan? What are you doing? Spain. Rhonda's going to Spain. Did I see? Yes, you have a plan, Ed? Oh, well, lovely. Congratulations on that. Gail, where are you going? Going to Nantucket with your kids. What a lovely trip. Anybody else? Evelyn, what are you doing? Vancouver. Maybe we'll be there at the same time. I don't know for sure, but that would be lovely. Arlene, where are you going?
Going on a backroads bike trip, July 11th for 7 days.
Fantastic.
Grandma at my house up north for 10 days.
A bike trip with her grandchildren. How?
My trip with my friends. And then
Oh, bike trip with friends and then with your grandchildren. Wow, that's a double header. How lucky you are. So of those, I don't know on Zoom if any of you are planning anything, but think about this. Of those of you who have plans, how many of you expect to be able to keep those plans? Raise your hands. Pretty much everybody. We make plans, we assume we're going to keep them. What happens to you when the plans that you make don't come true? What happens? You get disappointed. Anything else? Just disappointed? Gee, see, he's heard my speeches before. Regroup. Okay. Many of us get disappointed. We get upset. We get angry. The truth is that it's wonderful to make plans, have dreams. They give us happiness. But actually being invested in those plans, working out the way we plan them, often is the cause of great disappointment and even to the point of depression. I stand here before you today as a result of a failed plan. Some months ago, when Paulette was planning the programming, the date for my talk was going to be in the end of February. It turned out that that date worked better for someone else, and I got bummed. Okay? We rebooked this very quickly, and so it was easy for me to be gracious and accept the change of the date, particularly if we've got lots of time to adjust to the disappointment. But if it happens, without any notice, almost at the date you're supposed to go, like many of us had experiences like that in 2020, not quite so easy to accept. How did I feel about that? How do you all feel about it? Basically, something I had committed to was not going to happen as it was planned. I had choices. I could be angry that the plans were changed. Sometimes when we get disappointed, we get angry. I could be disappointed and depressed, or I could have accepted the situation and made another plan. Long before COVID brought our life plans to a halt, we were faced with things not working out the way we wanted. We didn't notice them as much because they didn't happen as often. The truth is, we all like to think we are in control of our lives. We all like to think that life is predictable because we are independent and capable individuals, and we can run our own lives. It makes us feel better to hang on to those thoughts, but are they really true? The problem is not that there is unpredictability. The problem is expecting otherwise and thinking that having unpredictability is a problem. Now let's get back to being predictable. Human beings by nature, by their very nature, like to think they have control. They don't like to think they don't. We like to believe that the world we live in is predictable and we know what will happen. The truth is that it's not so, but we fool ourselves. And the way we fool ourselves is by creating routines. Regular schedules help us believe that we have our lives in order. We generally wake up at the same time every morning, and we go through our morning rituals, whatever they might be. We have a day timer that tells us what our schedule is for that day, and we proceed most days to follow it. We create to-do lists to keep us on track, and life moves forward as expected. Unfortunately, things rarely continue indefinitely without our routines getting disturbed. How we adjust to change and embrace the unknown determines how we enjoy and thrive in our lives. If there is a reason for us to be in this world, I believe it is to embrace change and grow. The problem is that it is human nature to not embrace change by keeping the known routines going, while it is life's nature to demand change. Think of it this way. when everything is going well, when we are meeting with success, happiness, and joy. Do we want anything to change? Absolutely not. I see your heads bobbing just like mine. No way. We hang on and we pray whatever is happening in that moment may never, ever end and last forever when things are going well. How about when we are in pain, meeting with failure, and full of the unknown? Do we want that to change? You bet. Not only do we want it to change, we want it to change yesterday. If we can make it happen yesterday, it's even better than today. So if the motivator for change is discomfort, life presents us with discomfort. So we will embrace change and grow. Often the things we never want to change are exactly the changes God wants us to make in order for us to become the best version of ourselves we can be. Pain is the price of admission into new life. From the pain of childbirth to the growing pains of maturity, we are constantly asked to embrace discomfort so we can grow. Consequently, everyday life occurrences cause us discomfort. Add a member to your family, or worse yet, lose a member by divorce or dying. They all cause discomfort. Change our job or our living arrangements, and we are uncomfortable. Experience illness or anything that clouds our perspective of the future, and we will feel the pain of unpredictability. Though all of the above eventually get resolved, while we are going through the uncertainty of change, we are uncomfortable. In fact, it could be said that we move at the speed of pain. No pain, no gain, no growth. Life is messy, and in order to grow, we must embrace the pain of change and unpredictability. Thank goodness nothing lasts forever, not the good or the bad. And once we recreate routines, we once again can fool ourselves into thinking that we are back in control. COVID-19 has been the ultimate in unpredictability. If any of us had been asked the question as to what we had planned for 2020, like I asked you today, what do you have in the next 3 months? If I had asked you what you have planned in 2020, none of us would have come up with the correct answer. What we had planned didn't matter because the virus was going to cause all of our plans to disappear. Even if we had predicted how the virus was going to go, I doubt that any one of us would have thought we would still be living with so much unpredictability over 10 months in 2020, 12 months in 2021, and still in 2022, unsure about tomorrow since the declaration of the pandemic. For most of us, still in the stage of being unable to predict when the effects of COVID will allow us to begin to return to any kind of life that resembles normalcy, unpredictability has become the now normal. So how does one learn to live in unpredictability? First thing I needed to develop was a closer relationship with the God of my understanding. Having grown up in a traditional Jewish home, I believed in God. I embraced religion. The problem was that I did not have a personal relationship with God. In fact, the only time I really prayed for or reached out to a God was when I was in trouble. And then I prayed for very specific outcomes. You know, keep my kids safe, put a roof over our head, give me food, help me get over whatever I'm going through. Sometimes I even got what I prayed for, but not always. That experience did not improve my relationship with God. I needed something different. If I was going to develop a relationship with any of you, if you were going to develop a relationship with anybody, what would you do? Any suggestions? That would be good. Spend time with them. What else would you do? You'd listen to them. What else would you do? Get to know them. Wonderful. Any other suggestions? So, do things together. Okay. Same for me. If I was going to develop a relationship with God, I needed to be willing to devote some time to get to know him, her, or it, whatever God is, and introduce myself. I began to meditate and pray more regularly. I gave God some of my time as I would anyone with whom I wanted to build a friendship. I began to look for God occurrences and give credit to God when they happened. For instance, when I got that great parking spot right in front of the store I was planning to enter, I took the time to say, thank you, God, instead of just assuming I got lucky. I needed to develop a conscious contact with God. One thing I did was to connect with God when I checked the time. If I looked at my watch or checked my phone to see what time it was, I took a second more and I thanked God for the gift of time. This helped me to feel like I had a personal connection with a power greater than myself. When I opened the doorknob on a door to either go in or go out, I took that 1 second longer to thank God for letting me move through my day. Again, a conscious contact with God. I wasn't just reaching to get something from God. Rather, I was sharing everyday occurrences with this thing I called God. I still wasn't sure what God was. By the way, I still am not sure. But I was beginning to develop a relationship with something. It allowed me to never feel alone. God was with me as I was traveling through my day. I began each day touching base with God, thanking him, her, or it for giving me another day. My prayer in the morning was, God, I give you my day. Show me your will and give me the courage and tools to be an instrument of your vision. Each night, before I went to bed, I would thank God for the day I was given, saying a prayer before I went to sleep. Thank you, God, for all you gave me today and all you took away, even if I don't know what they are. That prayer, by the way, reminds me of a story about this man who was having a horrible, horrible day. His alarm clock didn't go off on time, so he got up late and started to go to work. There was a huge traffic jam on the way on his route to work because of an accident, and he was late. When he arrived, he discovered a meeting he was supposed to attend, which was really an important meeting, had been canceled because he didn't get there. At the end of the day, all he wanted to do was put his feet in his electric massager, and the fuse blew. He threw his hands up in frustration and said to God, God, I'm a good man. I pray to you every day. Why haven't you watched over me? And suddenly he heard a voice, and it said, I did watch over you. I broke your alarm so you would get on the road late, or else you would have been in that accident. And if you had gotten to work on time, that meeting would have not been canceled and you would have been fired. If I had not blown the fuse when you put your feet in the massager, you would have been shocked. I did watch over you. You just need to have more faith that I'm working for you. I too don't always recognize when God is working in my life. When I'm facing a very challenging day, do I ever think that God may be intervening and protecting me from something even worse? Thank you, God, for all you have given me today and all that you have taken away, even if I don't know what those things are. That is the way to develop a healthy relationship with a power greater than me. Though I still don't know what God really is or does, gradually I've begun to feel closer to the God of my understanding. And then unpredictability is a little less scary. I don't have to navigate the unpredictable all alone. I needed, however, to develop faith. I couldn't get past questioning the God of my understanding because truthfully, I looked at a lot of things in my life and I thought, oh my God needs help. He doesn't have enough facts. He needs my help. I didn't have enough faith. I came to realize as I connected to God that many of my decisions in life had been out of fear. Fear is an illusion that I create due to my lack of faith. My mind liked to worry and kept me thinking in negative terms. My ego would work really hard to figure out how I could change the circumstances in which I found myself, redirect someone else's journey, or fix a problem to reduce my fear and make me think I was once again in control. Fear didn't allow me to feel like I was in control. The truth is, however, as was already mentioned, control also is only an illusion, and I really never had control at all. When the horrible things I imagined by worrying didn't happen, I fooled myself again and told myself how wonderful I was in fixing the problem and that worrying actually worked. Because I worried and was at the top of my game, bad things didn't happen. The truth is that worrying had nothing to do with the outcome. Our greatest fears rarely come to pass. The things we worry about are just irrational speculations, the what ifs. I could just as easily imagine a positive what if as a negative one. And again, I would have no control over the outcome. Worrying is like rocking in a rocking chair. It provides a great deal of activity, but it gets us nowhere. Truthfully, faith and worry can't coexist. As I developed a stronger relationship with the God of my understanding, I developed more faith that God wanted me to thrive and would be there to support me, guide me, and teach me what I needed to know and do to thrive if I put my faith in him, her, or it. If I gave all of my energy to life and living instead of worrying about unpredictability, then unpredictability didn't matter. I needed to remember that right here, right now, in this moment, I was all right and stay in the day. I recently experienced giving all my energy to life and living when I was forced to wait for a month to confirm that the horrible results of a blood test were not true. Worrying was not going to change the outcome. Exercising, eating right, drinking much water, and keeping the routine that I had worked for 5 years was the guidance my God suggested when I prayed and meditated. By the way, it was also suggested that I do the test again. My human fears led me to worry, but my faith reminded me that I was doing everything I could. The outcome was in God's hands, and I would be all right with whatever happened because it would be what was right for me. Patience and faith would get me where I needed to go, and God would have my back and take care of me. I needed to live each day to the fullest, doing the next right thing, and accept that regardless of the outcome, I was going to be all right. I have learned always to help myself when I am experiencing unpredictability. Asking why questions always keeps me in the problem. Questions like, why did that have to happen? Or why didn't he or she do this? Or why does it always have to turn out that way? Or why can't I catch a break just once? Why questions not only keep me focused on the problem, they almost always turn me into a victim as well. Now, when I have a problem or situation I don't like, I ask questions like, what are 3 things I can do right now to remedy this? Or who might have experienced this that I can call and reach out to for help? Or what lessons are here for me to learn and grow from? Or where can I get a solution for this? These questions help me get out of the problem and into the solution. Today, I know how to ask better questions. If I wanted to thrive, though, in unpredictability, I had to come to believe that God had a plan. And even if I didn't know what the plan was or where it would take me, I had to believe it would work out for the best. By the way, that's not always easy. My plan and God's plan doesn't always match. My human vision was often quite small, but God's vision was large. God was able to see a bigger picture. What I thought was best, often even the options I generated, were not necessarily the only choices. I needed to live in acceptance that nothing in God's world happened by accident. And if I had faith, all would work out the way it should. If I could accept that every situation was exactly the way it was supposed to be at the moment it was happening, then I could find happiness regardless of the circumstances. By concentrating on changing my attitude instead of focusing on what I needed to change in the world, I could accept the unpredictable and make the most of what was. True acceptance was believing that no matter what happens, even if it is not what I planned or wanted, it is and should be, and most importantly, I am going to be all right. One way to develop acceptance is to look at the world through the eyes of gratitude. Gratitude is the feeling that begins when we recognize the good. Gratitude is the feeling that begins when we recognize the good. When I look at the world through the eyes of gratitude, focusing on what I have, I see and feel differently than if I focus on what I may be missing or am afraid to lose. When I experience gratitude, I have less room for fear and anxiety. Fear always lives in the future, while gratitude lives in experiencing the uniqueness of the present moment and not taking it for granted. Unpredictability robs all of us of the excitement of our plans. Just like the virus made us unable to plan for the future, so does unpredictability. I'm forced to live in the moment and day into day. Not every day brings excitement or even joy. Often the challenges of life are present. The cultivation of real joy is one of the greatest challenges. Though life may cause us to go through periods of sadness, there is nothing that can arise that can deprive us of the ability to find joy. Joy is energy always within us, there for us to embrace. It is our true nature. Sometimes joy is exuberant. Sometimes it is calm and deep. Sometimes we laugh from joy, and sometimes we weep. Joy is a sense of wholeness, of rightness. It is the spirit that lets us keep our heads up and our hearts open when we are caught in a painful situation, when we need to remember that there is hope or that things can change. Jewish weddings, we've all been to Jewish weddings. They consist of blessings and end with the breaking of a glass, symbolizing that life is also filled with brokenness. The moment the glass breaks, the guests burst out in song of joy and wishes of Mazal Tov, as joy and sorrow are often soulmates. We each experience joy in different ways, sparked by different experiences, yet for everyone, the greatest part of joy depends on our dispositions, not our circumstances. Often the barriers to experiencing joy are our own character traits of jealousy, anger, selfishness, depression, and anxiety. Working on spiritual practices of mindfulness and compassion helps us to change our negative attitude, enabling us to feel joy and joy to exist, regardless of the circumstances we might be experiencing. Paradoxically, having fun and happiness can also get in the way of joy. Though both happiness and joy are wonderful feelings, they are very different. Joy comes from a spiritual connection to God. It is internal, that inner peace that one experiences when they accept who they are, how they are, and why they are. Joy does not depend on outside circumstances. It is the feeling one gets when they look at a sunset or listen to music or when they recognize a gift from God. When I can quiet the chatter in my head and create space within, I can open my heart to joy. Happiness, on the other hand, is usually just a moment in time, not a state of being. Happiness is an emotion in which we experience feelings ranging from contentment and satisfaction to pleasure and bliss. It tends to be externally triggered, and often it is based on other people, places, and things, thoughts, and events. Happiness can act as a distraction from reality that comes and goes. We need to be in the moment to grab it. We need to be in the present. There are many things that might bring us temporary happiness that are not necessarily good for us. Getting drunk at a party, drug addiction, lots of fun, lots of happiness in the moment, but not necessarily good for us. Happiness is on the face, while joy lives in the heart. Happiness lives in the moment, joy lives in the soul. Happiness comes and goes. Joy is deliberate and intentional. Happiness is an outward expression of joy. Happiness is an outward expression. Joy is an inner feeling. Joy endures hardships, connecting with meaning and purpose. We pursue happiness, but we choose joy. We feel happiness. We practice joy. We know joy. We live joy. My children are coming to visit me tomorrow. My children are a joy. They're gifts from God. Spending time with them gives me happiness. My talents, also gifts from God, are joys. Using them to help others, that brings me happiness. By embracing the world and looking at everything through the eyes of gratitude, I'm able to choose joy and be present to grab happiness when life presents me with the opportunity. Viktor Frankl, in his book, Man's Search for Meaning, said, between stimulus and response, there's a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. I translate that message into a prayer that I repeat regularly. It goes like this: God, grant me the grace to find the space between impulse and action. Equanimity is the place of inner calm. It is a place where an individual can experience joy, fear, grief, delight, and other feelings without being thrown off balance by them. Excuse me. It is like the focal point of a seesaw, the place that balances the ups and the downs. Strengthening our capacity for equanimity is enormously important for all of us, particularly as we age. Aging comes with feelings less in control of the events taking place in our lives. We often feel more anxious about the future, be it global issues like COVID-19 or Ukrainian wars, our own health and life expectancies, or issues with our spouse. Having equanimity enables us to be responsive rather than reactive to what is going on in the moment. It gives us the ability to accept what is and then choose how we wish to respond. We are no longer slaves to our feelings. The difference between responding and reacting. Most of us tend to react when something happens. The only difference that gets you to responding is activating this before you activate this. Thinking, taking that moment to actually make a choice, going to equanimity so that you don't react. You don't open your mouth, or worse yet, your feet, jumping into action before you start thinking. The quality of equanimity, the ability to accept and to be present with whatever is going on, even if what is happening is something we do not want, is what helps us live well between the stimulus and the response. It is where peace and serenity live. It is the internal island of calm from which we can clearly see and choose what we want to do next. It is our individual power. Through the eye of equanimity, we can recognize, again, that nothing lasts forever, not the good or the bad, and no emotional condition has to define us permanently or dominate our mood. Feelings are just feelings, and they all pass if we stay in the space between impulse and action. I know that I am not responsible for my first thought or my first feeling for that matter, but I am responsible for my first action. Developing equanimity allows me to pause when I feel something, think it through, and wait until once again I'm at peace, and then make a decision that is not fear-based. The acronym PAUSE, P-A-U-S-E, stands for postpone action until serenity enters. That is living in equanimity. From that quiet place, we have the opportunity to look carefully at our alternatives and to choose a response that will be most effective and constructive. From that space, we can make a decision that is rational and spiritual, rather than striking back blindly from fear and anger or desire and need. From that space, we can receive the messages our God is sending. We all like to think we have control over our lives. We take actions, we set goals, and we achieve many of them, especially in this group. We study, we work, and we strive. Many things turn out well, some do not. Despite diet and exercise, we get sick. Our friends and family make decisions we don't like. Jobs and the economy change. We still cling to the illusion of control because we fear vulnerability. Equanimity allows us to live in the unpredictable and accept the things we cannot change. It helps us to seek and to find the good that is always there somewhere. Finally, the most important way to thrive in unpredictability is to develop trust. Trust in life, trust in God, and trust in self. I've come to trust that God did not create this life or me to have me suffer or merely survive. I was made to thrive, and I get to do that each day through freedom of choice and free will. Though I do believe the major highlights of one's life are destined by God, how I get to those milestones is up to me. I get to design the journey. When I was a young girl, I was very close to my grandfather. We had a chocolate brown poodle as the family pet. And when I was about 16, the dog got hit by a car and died. I was heartbroken. My grandfather told me that because there was so much love in our family for the dog, we would be reunited. I wasn't sure I believed him, but it did reduce my pain in that moment. He went on to say that the major highlights of our life are beshert, destined, like when we are born, what we will become in life, who we will marry, and when we will die. Since God gives us free will, however, we get to choose how we get to those highlights. We can take an easy route or choose a rocky journey, but where we end up will always be where we're supposed to go. So it was with our poodle. He had a good life, and it was his time to die, and nothing we did or didn't do could have altered his destiny, or ours for that matter. My happiness or unhappiness depends more on the way I meet the events of my life than on the nature of those events. Pain and joy both come with life. How I choose to respond to what happens to me and around me shapes how I will feel. It is just as easy to think I can as to think I can't. Both attitudes are habitual orientations to life that can become automatic with practice. Neither attitude has as much to do with the task at hand as it does with the inner spirit of the person facing the task. In either case, the task is the same, only the attitude is different. But what a difference. The I can people are the ones we want to spend time with and to use as models. These are the people who either have never lost or have worked to regain the positive outlook we are all born with. It never occurs to a baby, for example, that all that staggering and falling means he or she will never learn to walk. Babies grow, move forward, and succeed. They haven't learned to hang back or fear defeat. Knee-jerk negativity is something we can all do without. Let's backtrack to the time in our lives when all things were possible, because they still are. When I remember that I am resilient and use the lessons of the challenges of life, I can choose to try again and my soul grows. When I courageously reach out and ask for help from God, family, and friends, I can rise above any difficulty that might be presented. Each of us must accept the darkness of life, not as a failure, but as a part of a totality, as something that threw us into growth and into being. COVID was the unpredictable beginning, an overture of unknowability. We need to remember that even though situations may not change, perspectives can. It is not what you look at that matters. It is what you see. It is not what you look at that matters. It is what you see. We need to open our perspective to uncertainty, because where there is uncertainty, there is also possibility. Regardless of how the present looks, there is always the possibility for good. That gives us hope, knowing we can enjoy watching radiant sunsets, be happy listening to music and conversing with those we love. Even if we don't know what tomorrow may bring, we can enjoy the planning and leave the outcome to a power greater than ourselves. Once, in a small village, the villagers decided to pray for rain. On the day of the prayer, all the people gathered, but only one small boy came with an umbrella. That is faith. When we throw babies in the air, they laugh because they know you will catch them. That is trust. Every night we go to bed without any assurance of being alive the next morning, but we still set alarms to wake ourselves up. That is hope. We plan big things for tomorrow in spite of zero knowledge of the future. That is attitude. In closing, the way to thrive in unpredictability is to continue to make plans and hang on to your dreams. It is in the making of plans that we find joy. Remember, however, to not be invested in the outcomes, though I hope all of you get to do what you planned for the next 3 months. Even the best of planned parties cannot guarantee that everyone will have a good time. Hang on to the belief that whatever the outcome of our plans might be is exactly as it was meant to be, and be grateful for the opportunity to make another plan. When I remember that in life there is no situation too difficult to be bettered and no unhappiness too great to be lessened, if I greet each day with laughter and love, I can give up the need for control. A friend asked me if I was an optimist or a pessimist. You know, the old saying, was my cup half full or half empty? After a moment's thought, I replied, I'm not sure if my cup is half full or half empty, but I am grateful I have a cup and I get to choose how full I want to make it. I have heard that if I look at what I have in life, I will always have more. But if I look at what I don't have, I will never have enough. It is my responsibility to make every day meaningful by living each day to the fullest without concern for tomorrow. By only focusing on tomorrow when it becomes today, I get to cheat unpredictability by choosing joy now. Today, I have control. I don't have control of anything else. Remember that today is the tomorrow that I worried about yesterday. And by the way, my worries were not anything like what today was. Only now, when it is today, do I have any control of how things might be. Only today can I choose joy, regardless of how the day goes. Only today, if I'm not pleased with how things are going, can I choose to start over. Living just for today will give me a fresh outlook on every day as it unfolds. Few things will overwhelm me when I keep my focus on today. I look forward to every experience today, knowing that God is giving me what I need. So plan for tomorrow, but live in today. Thank you. You were all such a wonderful audience. You never interrupted me even once. I'm hoping that you have comments or questions. Anybody? I answered all your questions. You have nothing?
I think your attitude is absolutely sterling. Yours happens to be faith-based. The talk could also be applied to those who do not choose to have faith-based situation.
Mhm.
But I'm absolutely thrilled to have listened to your inspiring talk. And my wife just leaned over and said, "I wish my son Daniel could hear this talk."
I didn't always have a lot of faith. I mean, that's the real truth. I didn't have a lot of faith. Just the same way as I asked you, how do you build a friendship with a friend? I had to build a friendship with what I called God.
Well, just one last comment. In terms of the building, I think that underlying the process and perhaps arriving at the good spot requires practice. And I think you commented on that as part of your survey. And I think that I would underline that particular concept. It doesn't happen overnight. We try to improve or not react. I call it being measured in your response. But having said that, it takes a lot of practice for some of us who need to practice.
It takes a lot of practice for some of us who have faith. Even now, I still have to practice it. My natural DNA is to react, not to respond. I have to work really hard at not. And you can ask my husband, he knows I don't do this perfectly, ever. So it's a goal.
I have a canned question.
Sure, go ahead, ask your canned question.
Because I have to know you. Yeah, for some of years. My canned question is, and I think I know the answer that you come up with because I know you. But for the benefit of people that don't really, you talk about God and your faith and your trust in a higher power. In spite of wars, killing, and murder, and 6 million, and on and on and on, since time immemorial. How do you reconcile?
Actually, I hang on to something that I believe Rabbi said, and that was that, God doesn't promise us a life without pain or suffering. But what God does promise me is that God will be there and help me through that pain. So I don't try and figure out the answers anymore. I don't ask the why questions, as I told you in my talk. I don't know why God allows horrible wars or 6 million Jews to die or the Holocaust or anything. I don't have those answers. But I do have the belief that each and every time I am challenged and faced with some kind of difficulty, that God will be present. God will help me. And I think Rabbi said it beautifully when he talked about somebody who was sitting Shiva. And the rabbi was able to say, God's with us here in this moment, in this time, God is with me. So that's the best answer I can give you. I don't have any others. Fred?
Thank you. I think in terms of just following up what Bob said and what you said, years back, I read the book When Bad Things Happen to Good People by Rabbi Harold Kushner. That answered a lot of questions, both that I had and that I hear people always ask. And I think it was a remarkable study in exactly what you were talking about, that why does this happen to me, all these terrible things? And I thought Kushner answered it brilliantly. And anyone who hasn't read the book, get a hold of it. It really answers a lot of the questions that you brought up and support a lot of what you said.
When I hear somebody say, why me? My answer usually is, why not you? What's so special about me? Why should I get excused? Bad things happen. Struggles happen. Life is messy. And, if you follow the notion that it's from pain that we embrace change and grow, then life is going to give us those things. And we should be expecting that challenges will face us. We're not supposed to get rid of that. We're supposed to learn how to live with that in a better way, how to move forward with them. People we love die or get sick or end up in jail or whatever. And those are challenges. They always hurt. But that doesn't mean that we have to stop living a good life or we can't find joy in that. If you can find the light in the darkness, That's an amazingly wonderful thing to occur. Linda?
Yeah, I was just thinking, it really would be good for young people, school children, to have some of these lessons. I mean, to learn at a young age that one needs to see the glass as half filled and look at what you have and not be concerned because somebody else has something you don't have. I think they're valuable lessons that people could use throughout their lives.
I think young children have that naturally. You watch kids playing on a playground. They have no fear. They share, they have a good time. They don't care if they look silly. They don't worry what somebody else thinks. I think it's in those teenage years that we start being self-conscious. We start being concerned about, how we look and what people think of us and whether we're in the in crowd or the out crowd. That's where it probably should be done. And ideally, you would hope that these are values that family teach. Unfortunately, they don't. My biggest thing when I work with families is to be reminded of the fact that as a good parent, we're supposed to teach children a sense of self, give them a sense of who they really are. But most parents don't do that, including myself. We give our children a sense of who we want them to be, who we think they should be, not reflecting who they actually are. And they spend the rest of their lives trying to live up to that expectation. And it causes an unbelievable amount of harm. It really does. They don't get the sense that they're good just the way they are. Most kids don't have that growing up, and they struggle with it for their entire life. They're trying to be something that they're not, because they think something that they're not is better than something that they are. And that's sad. And it makes a lot of money for therapists. Any other questions, comments?